Hello and welcome to Now is the Time. I'm Meri Crouley. And on today's program, we're going to be talking about some exciting things that are happening here, right in the city of Los Angeles. Tomorrow night, the Freedom Ball is going to be at the Beverly Hills L'Ermitage Hotel, right there on 9291 Burton Way. There's still some tickets available, so I want to let you know, those of you who are in the California area, you still have the ability to come. So please either go to the website, mericrouley.com, which you should see on the screen, but if you don't see it, it's spelled mericrouley.com. You can buy the tickets. They're $175, but that includes a 3-course meal at a 5-star hotel. We're going to be on the roof overlooking the whole LA skyline, the Hollywood sign, and we are going to have a wonderful time because it's a fundraiser for the Freedom Cry movie and documentary, which I'm producing, and also giving some finances to Opal Singleton of Million Kids and Justice Speaks. But Angel Wilson, my good friend from Spokane, Washington, is here with me in the studio, and he is also going to be at that ball tomorrow night, and he is going to be singing and performing. So you'll also get to see Angel as well. So thank you for coming to the program, Angel. You know, and your story is really compelling. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know Angel, Angel had an encounter in Hollywood, mm-hmm. Many years ago. But I would like you to recount that, what happened in 1983.
Yeah, so I was 19 years old and from Spokane, Washington, and I did not have a lot of heartache at home and hardship, and not fully, but a lot. And it was enough for me to... Well, I wanted to get out of there and just experience certain things, so I hitchhiked to Seattle and lived there a little bit, and I went into the clubbing in Portland, San Francisco, to Hollywood, and I wanted to really go into movies. I was in some civic theater, and I loved theater because I found my niche with singing. Like, my first play was Sound of Music. When I was in junior high, was Kurt Von Trapp, because I love to sing, and that was, I realized the only thing that I seemed to enjoy in life was musical theater. And so that's why I went to Hollywood. And I was, by that time though, when I got there, I was a real mess, and I was involved in street prostitution and drugs. And as I was going down the West Coast, the drugs were getting stronger and stronger, like marijuana to LSD to cocaine to crystal meth. It was San Francisco that opened me up to crystal meth. And it just, your personality changes and you do things that you never would have thought you were doing. So I ended up in Hollywood, and after 1 month, I was living with an audio producer who filmed Stevie Nicks' Stand Back video, so I was at the set. So I was kind of like getting into the, meeting people in the industry. And
and that's the thing, too. Let me just interject briefly. That's the thing that happens. A lot of people come to Hollywood. A lot of people want to get known, discovered, find fame, fortune. And you came out here, and you got caught up not only, looking for fame and fortune, but also you got caught up into the gay lifestyle as well as, starting to do drugs.
Yeah, and that was before I got here. I was already in it.
Okay.
But way long before I came to Hollywood. But, but anyway, so I got picked up by an audio producer on the street and taken to an awesome condo and lived with him and started to meet people. I remember meeting Mary Kay from Mary Kay Cosmetics on North Kings Road below Beverly Hills at a party. And she saw who I was. She could tell that I was a mess, a little teenage mess, And she just came and sat by me like a tender mother by the poolside. And she was so sweet. That was a beautiful memory that I had, of Mary Kay. And anyway, it was like I was in the parade that goes on Santa Monica Boulevard, not in the parade participating, but just part of the crowd. And I was on a series of drugs early that morning, but way later at night, I started to have this inner encounter that was progressive with God. And I started to think very heavily. It was coming to my mind. I wasn't wanting to think about it. It was like heaven and hell and God and surrender, and all these things were going. And it was like a volcano almost. It was just getting so strong in me. And I'm like, I started having a dialogue with God at the gay parade.
Well, so let's interject. So you're searching for something. You were at the gay pride parade, and you're walking down the street, and you told me you literally had an encounter where you heard God speak to you.
Yeah, so it wasn't an audible voice, but it was it was like God speaks to us in different ways. I think it was the voice of God It's me interpreting what he was saying. It was so clear. And I knew I was at a precipice of choice. You know, many times when I heard people preaching on TV or on Christmas, Easter, you go to a church and they do an altar call, you know, you can always put God off for later. But when you're having an encounter with God, whatever that encounter is, you can't say later. You have to make the choice, and each choice will have its consequences.
Well, right. So we have a lot to get through. So I wanted to just briefly touch on this. So basically, you heard God say to you, because because I know this story so well, because I've known you for several years, that you had said to the Lord, Lord, I've tried to change, I can't. And you heard him say something in your thought process. What did you say?
Yeah, I said I can't change. He's saying, I want you to give me your life, your whole life. And I said, I can't do that. I can't change. I'm gay. I said, I wanted to change. I want you. I believed in you. I've longed to know you, but I can't change. I'm gay. And he said, I'm not asking you to change. And then he said, I'm asking you to surrender and put your trust in me and follow me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing for you watching. A lot of us, we try to change ourselves. But, you know, the really one who can make a change in you is God, and we have to surrender our life to him. So after that, your life changed. And I mean, you are on this track because we have a lot to cover here today.
You know, the next day, I put my hands in the air. I'm making vows to surrender. I'm shaking. I'm crying in the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard at 2 in the morning. You know, and in that location where that happened, there was a rainbow intersection painted in the pavement in West Hollywood. And that's the area where this happened, where the Rainbow Road is. It wasn't there before. You know, on my book that I just published, I have a picture of that very location with the Rainbow Road on it. But the next day, I'll tell you this. After I had this encounter, when I made these vows and surrendered to Christ and gave him my heart, Jesus Christ, the Lord, this like a spiritual tranquil shift and like a wind went all the way through me and outside, and everything was suddenly quiet inwardly and outwardly. The drug effect, the noise, everything was suddenly gone. It was as serene as glass. And I'm like, what just happened? And I'm like, this is crazy. And then it was like realizing a transaction happened with God and I. The next day, I called this lady gave me a Christian leaflet about how to receive Christ and had her phone number on it because I was drawn to him. So I'd read those things. I stuck it in my pocket. I pull it out and I call her the next day because I'm now a disciple. I gave him my life. And I said, I don't know who Jesus is really. And I had an encounter. I gave him my life. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? So she picked me up, and I ended up being kidnapped the next day by her and 2 other people in a car, and they were driving me away, and the Lord helped me escape this kidnapping. And I got out of the car and put my hands up in front of my captors like I did the night before. And I'm thinking, if you're God, I want it, you know, it's like I need the God of yesterday to come if you're real, if this is real. And I was making the vows quietly and surrendering, and he gave me wisdom on how to, and I put my hands up in front of them and began to pray the Lord's Prayer out loud in front of my captors and just began to walk. And I walked right through them and got safe. And my roommate came and picked me up and took me home. He said, you need to leave Hollywood. You've been kidnapped by a cult. I don't know who it was, but I had a feeling because I was on the streets and there were just certain things at times where I felt like I was being surveilled or something. And I'm a teenage, vulnerable boy that ran away from home on the streets. And I'm actually wondering if it was sex traffickers that were kidnapping me.
You know, very well could be. So, you know, and that's why tomorrow night on the rooftop of the Vice Hermitage, you know, we're going to be doing this event to promote the documentary about sex trafficking that I'm producing. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that, you know, this could have been trafficking even back then.
Yeah. I mean, even the man I was living with who was opening the doors to the movie industry and stuff, you know, picked me up in prostitution, you know, and it wasn't like he was a predator. We were both looking. He wanted something and I wanted something. So even my career was based on sexual contacts that were not healthy, you know, and that were vulnerable to risk, high risk.
Well, and now, you know, you've wrote in the book, Over the Rainbow, God's Eye for the Gay Guy, which we're going to offer you at the end of the program. But you wrote this book, it came out last year, and you've now literally been a missionary to the LGBT community.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you went to San Francisco just, you know, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what happened there? Okay,
well, I want to start off by talking about an encounter, an angelic encounter I had 2 days before I went to San Francisco. And this was just 4 weeks ago with my mom in Spokane in the living room. I'm just hanging out, did some yard work for her. And I had this encounter where this supernatural power, and I can tell differences sometimes with God's presence that fills me versus an angel that's imparting something. Because the Bible in 1 Corinthians talks about having discerning and distinguishing of spirits, which means that this Holy Spirit in you can help you discern what kind of spirit is affecting you. It can be a negative one, a dark one, it can be a light one, an angel, God, the Holy Spirit, whatever. But I was aware through experience that this was an angelic encounter. It wasn't seeing. It was knowing and experiencing and feeling. And it was like this light energy. It just went through my whole being. And my hairs were just standing on my arm, and I knew what was going on. But I didn't know exactly why. But I'm in my mom's living room. I had a lot of pain with my mother. You know, she used to discipline me and stuff, but a lot of anger in my family would come out towards me like a scapegoat of the family. I was adopted also, so I was the middle child, the scapegoat of an alcoholic family, you know, and the only boy with two sisters, younger and older, so I had everything against me. So I went through a lot of stuff there, but when she would discipline me, it was a bit, you know, she had a lot of stress going on, and I think it was coming out. But I was hurt a lot by my mom, and I know she was hurt by me and others too, so. But anyway, I would go in my room, and I got a hold of this pornography from San Francisco, written by a cartoonist named Tom of Finland, and it was like the leather, big, you know, husky dudes, and I would, you know, like satisfy myself, okay, in my room with this pornography. What I was doing was anesthetizing my pain, my emotional pain at home, and all the stuff I went through. They'd call me names like, you know, fag and stuff at home as a child, and they adopted me. So I got addicted to pornography and, you know, the other stuff.
Well, let me just interject that the pornography, just for you watching, you know, that I've been really researching a lot about the trafficking, and the pornography is a huge, you know, gateway into the sex trafficking. And in fact, it's become an obsession in our culture, and there's a lot of these young boys, in particular now with the iPhones and the internet, that at 8 years old are getting pornified.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, kind of like you did when you were younger.
I got a magazine. I didn't have internet. That would have just been easier and all kinds of stuff. It can open you up to worse things. But anyway, it was this fulsome, dark part of San Francisco, leather bondage kind of porn, and it was like fantasy porn. And it really affected me because I was hurt. And so it was like I wanted to lose myself in the fantasy mixed with ecstasy, right? And so this became an addiction. But when I left home, I went to San Francisco. I went looking for that fantasy, and I found it.
So it's like you put it in your mind. This is what when you put in through your eye gate, what you're watching really affects what you do.
Yeah, it's
and so you acted upon it, what you did as a younger, you know, kid because of your pain. Then you started, you know, looking to satisfy yourself through, you know, these magazines. Yeah, where did you find those magazines?
I don't know. I don't remember.
But you just got involved in this kind of...
I just found a magazine. It wasn't like magazines. I think I found it one. But it was enough to open me up to that kind of level of pornography, and homoerotic pornography is what it's called. So, you know, I ended up hitchhiking through Seattle, San Francisco, and I met a guy that looked exactly like the porn I was looking at, and I'm like, oh my God. You know, went home with him, and he put like half a gram of crystal meth up my arm through a needle. And I was already doing drugs, so I was going to like do another risk, and these risk levels would just get stronger and stronger, and I didn't feel like I had any hope in life anyway, so it sort of didn't matter to me. I didn't want to die and go to hell, but I also, you know, I thought there was nothing to live for except escape from pain.
Well, and often when you have so much pain, people are using drugs or alcohol or pornography or any of these things to try to alleviate that pain.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we only have about 10 minutes left. I want to get to some of the parts of what you came back. So keep on going, you know, because I want to talk about you being in San Francisco, going back again.
Yeah, so I'm back there, and I'm with a team that brought me there, and they were like my persons of peace that were hospitable and took care of me and let me minister in the Castro gay area and the Folsom, where I used to live before Christ. And I worked in 3 iconic restaurants, gay restaurants in San Francisco. And so it was like a full circle. Well, they had a thing called the Folsom Street Fair, which was the BDSM leather bondage festival in the Folsom area of San Francisco with 500,000 people. It's the largest sexual leather festival in the United States.
Okay, so I feel I need to interject here. So what happened, Angel, you know, 1983 has an encounter. God tells him to surrender. You know, he goes through a whole myriad of things. It's going to be some of this stuff in the book. But let me tell you, so he was explaining what happened to him, with watching the pornography, the S&M, and all that, what it opened up to you. But then, of course, you've walked out of that a long time ago. So just recently, some people invited you to come back to San Francisco. He brought a number of his books with him, like a couple hundred books, and you went into the street fair. But now this street fair, literally there's people that are having sex in the streets. I mean, kind of give...
There's 500,000 people. I have to say this with my mom. She was wounded, and it caused me to do pornography and Folsom porn. And I went to Folsom and got really caught up in the sexual stuff.
And that was 20-something years ago.
Right. Now, before I went to San Francisco, I had an angelic encounter in the living room with my mother.
Okay.
And it's a full circle, and I ministered to my mother, laid hands on her, and prayed for her. And then I went to the Folsom again. But this time, I brought the message of Jesus Christ through my book. But God did a full circle with my mom and I, with an encounter from God. And God sent me back to the Folsom.
I'm just getting a download from the Lord. There's some of you that are listening today, and you have children that are really not following God. And I really sense that God is speaking to me today, that God knows there's no pit too dark. There's no prison that's too strong. There's nothing that God can't and will redeem. And look what he did with Angel, coming back. And, were you, I'm not trying to, when you went there, because you haven't been, gay in a long time, but was there any...
No, well, what was interesting, with this angelic encounter, I had this impartation of power, and it was inside of me and out on me. And when I went to San Francisco, I was just in this realm of the Spirit through the whole entire 3 weeks. And I was in some real sexual arenas. If I was lonely, tired, hungry, or angry, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, that could be vulnerable. Or if I was by myself and I was tired or something. But I was with a team. But I had an encounter with God. And when I went there, it would take me an effort to really look at someone and open my heart to it. I was so in this grace, in the middle of all this 500,000 homosexual sexuality. And it was the most amazing thing to be in this realm of the Spirit of God. And it's like peripheral.
Well, what's coming to my mind, tell the story where, see, this is the thing. He's a missionary to the LGBT community. Now, he's not going to partake of what they're doing, but he's going to leave the 99 and find the one that's lost. Yeah. So you went into this gay bar with this team.
I left the one and I found 99.
Yeah, you left the one.
But the first night I went there, this was in the Castro, and there's a difference between the Castro, the Folsom is the leather, black leather, bondage sexual community, gay community, and then the Castro is the LGBT rainbow gays and lesbians and the whole transgenders and everybody. And it's more rainbowy there, okay, versus black, okay? And that kind of started, I think, when the Summer of Love hippie movement happened in 1968 in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, but the gay community erupted out of that, what blossomed out of that in the Castro. Yes. The people from all over the nation would go to the Castro to come out of the closet and feel accepted and comfortable. And it's a very political kind of place also. But the first night, my friends have been reaching out to the drag queen community and a gay nun organization, and they have some relationships they've developed. But they felt by having me come, now they heard me speak at the San Francisco Healing Rooms and Assembly of God Church the year before, and the pastor called them to meet me, and they felt I could come and work with them. So they take me into this bar that I'd been in years ago called the Moby Dick, and there was a show there, a drag show, female impersonators, and they wanted to introduce me to somebody, and they did, and then I mingled around the way I do with the Lord, like treasure hunting, and he showed me who to talk to. It was the host, who's all over San Francisco. I gave him a book. He was in costume, and gave him a book, signed it, and he said, and I wrote my book through the metaphors of the Wizard of Oz movie, which is their iconic movie that they really identify with, really. So he looks at my cover with the Wizard of Oz and the ruby and the rainbow road, and he goes, I love the Wizard of Oz, and he goes, I designed ruby slippers. And I think, if I heard correctly, that he has something in the Smithsonian Institute, a ruby slipper he designed. I know they do. That's why I wrote it that way. And so I said I'd like to give out some, you can use my books. I gave him a set to give out as prizes for their HIV fundraiser that they were doing. So he said, thank you so much. He was so excited. And then they gave me the microphone. And he said, you're on stage now. We want you to speak. And they put me up on stage at the show. This is 3 weeks ago from today. And I'm speaking and I'm sharing my testimony of experiencing God in the middle of the gay parade in Hollywood, California. And I'm also a 35-year HIV survivor. I contracted HIV in the Folsom. I'm going to say Folsom and Castro because HIV isn't always from one person. It can be more than one. And I was pretty all over the place. So I got HIV 35 years ago in the Folsom and Castro. And I'm one of the longest survivors in the world. My doctor said I'm one of the 95% that's still alive since 1983.
So this is amazing. So we're coming to the end of the show. We only have about 5 minutes left. So tomorrow night, Angel is going to be on the rooftop with me, and we're going to be on the rooftop, and we're going to say to God, you're King of the world. Because God is getting ready to take back Hollywood. He's taking back Los Angeles. He's taking back the darkest places, including San Francisco. And you're going to be singing the song on that rooftop over the rainbow.
Yeah.
And you're going to share your story.
Yeah, when I sing that, the Lord was saying, it's a 5-star hotel in Beverly Hills, correct? And the Lord said to me, and people like Beyonce, I looked it up. People like Beyonce and people at celebs go to that hotel during the Golden Globe Awards. And the Lord spoke to me and he said, you're going to sing over the rainbow at the high place of the mountain of media. The 5-star, 5 is the number of grace, star, Jesus is the morning star that's shining and starts shining in us. He's the star of Hollywood. The 5-star high place hotel over Beverly Hills, and I'm going to declare, it's a prophecy, over the rainbow, which is that born-again experience, that encounter with God. He said, you're not just going to sing it like a cute song at a gala. He says, you're going to declare it, and I'm going to release my angels to open up the kingdom and God's messengers to come and the laborers to come to begin to work on this harvest and this move of God. So it was a very strategic thing. It's going to be. It's going to be
strategic. So if you can come tomorrow, of course, it's the 11th today. If you watch this another time, it's October 12th. It's 6 o'clock to 9, Beverly Hills, Viceroy L'Hermitage Hotel. You could go to the website, which you should see on the screen, but it's mericrouley.com, mericrouley.com. You know, that same night, and I'll just finish with this, Radiance House of Prayer is putting on an event called Hollywood Arise, right across from the gates of Babylon in Hollywood. And we're going to be on the rooftop, and there's a tent over it. So God is bringing 2 tents together that we're going to be like speakers, blasting out into the atmosphere that Jesus is Lord. We're going to see some shaking going on. The kingdom of heaven is invading earth. So at the close of the show here, Over the Rainbow, God's Eye for the Gay Guy. If they'd like to get this book, where can they order it?
They can get it on Amazon or Dorothy'sClub.org. If they do it on Dorothy'sClub.org, you get a signed copy from me.
Okay, Dorothy'sClub.org or Amazon, they just go Over the Rainbow?
Yeah, Angel Wilson, 2 L's, but they can write in Over the Rainbow, God's Eye for the Gay Guy on Amazon.
Over the Rainbow, God's Eye for the Gay Guy. Well, listen, thank you for watching. Now is the time. Remember, now is the time for you to come into a manifestation of the presence of God. You know, we're at a crossing point. We're at a tipping point. Things are shifting. And the devil's been trying to do the sifting, but you know what? The word for the Lord for you is lifting. God is going to lift you up. You know, there's a song, Lord, lift me up where we belong. We're seated in heavenly places with Christ. You know, we're overcomers. We're not under. We're overcomers. So no matter what's been hitting you, you're too legit to quit. You know what? We're winners, not sinners, and we're going to see the kingdom of heaven invade earth. So thank you for watching. Now is the time. Remember, this is your season. And so if you'd like to make a donation even to my program, you can go to the website, mericrouley.com. You know, it takes money to do these programs. You can sow into the ministry. You can sow into what we're doing in the streets of Hollywood and Los Angeles. God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.